Good afternoon to everyone. I want to thank the Department of Energy, the Interior, Commerce, and Transportation for putting together this summit to talk about the important work we have ahead of us to make the United States a leader in offshore wind energy. It is so great to be here with you all. I'm Salud Carbajal, as was mentioned. I represent the 24th Congressional District, what I call paradise on earth. My district includes Santa Barbara County and portions of Ventura and San Luis Obispo counties. And as of December 6th, I also became the congressman representing the offshore wind lease areas first ever sold on the West Coast, 3 sites off the coast of Morro Bay in my district. The call area is known as the Morro Bay Call Area. I cannot tell you how excited I was to see those auctions finally come to fruition last December. For years, myself and other proponents of clean wind energy projects have been touting those lease areas, and offshore wind projects in general, as not just a tool to tackle climate change, but also a way to boost economic activity in this region, and of course, to create jobs in communities like the ones I represent on the Central Coast. And frankly, the successful auction of those leases was a vindication of that conviction that all us proponents have. BOEM's sale of more than 300 acres off California's coast, about 376 square miles off Morro Bay, and additional areas in Northern California generated $750 million in interest from the private sector over a multiple day auction. I know I may be preaching to the choir with those of you who are here today, but that amount of interest from the private sector reaffirmed the potential for this clean energy sector. It's harder to promise the economic benefit of a project when it's still an idea. When we ask our private partners to put up money online, that is when I can turn to our chambers of commerce, our local officials, community economic development groups, and show them the kind of interest we have generated. Since I came to Congress in 2017, I have believed that my region can be one of the powerhouses behind the clean energy transition. I formed an offshore wind working group in 2019 to help facilitate coordination between many of the federal partners who are here today, along with state and local interests. And last fall, I brought members of the House Natural Resources Committee and BOEM out to Morro Bay to speak directly with the community about the interest in this project. I highlight this not to give myself a pat on the back, but to confirm for you that coordination and cooperation from the federal down to local level is possible to navigate the challenges that are ahead in making offshore wind a reality. With the sale of these lease sites, California is poised to add enough offshore wind capacity to power more than 1.5 million homes. Well, we all know this will not be just a matter of flipping a switch. The lease sites in my area were identified because we have a consistent corridor of wind off our coast. But we are also identified because of our proximity to existing transmission lines that would allow us to connect to the grid pretty immediately. One of those transmission lines is the one currently being utilized at the Diablo Canyon Power Plant, which I'm sure many of you have heard of, as its last operational nuclear power plant in California, and now expected to decommission after an extension that is being worked on in 2030. Now, the offshore wind sites in development have the potential to generate double the amount of energy produced by Diablo Canyon. I don't raise this issue to pit the benefits of wind power against nuclear, although I am more of a proponent of wind energy than nuclear because of the nuclear waste issue that we still need to solve. I raise it to remind us that the challenges of implementation ahead are not happening in theory. This is, as we used to refer to in my time in the Marine Corps, a live fire exercise. This past year, California faced heat waves that caused nearly unsustainable demand on our electrical grid. Flex alerts sent by text messages and over the airwaves warned California that massive blackouts were not only possible, but probable if demand didn't voluntarily scale back. And against the backdrop of those warnings and heat waves, which we know are going to be more and more frequent as we face the worsening effects of climate change, California reignited its debate about the settled closure date of Diablo Canyon, initially scheduled to start decommissioning in 2024-25 to now 2030. That debate eventually put in motion a loan from the Department of Energy that is designed to help keep the plant online until the end of this decade, when offshore wind is ready to take its place. Despite years of debate over the closure of Diablo Canyon, the needs of the day required a change in course. And those real and undeniable changes must be on our radar as well. Forgive the pun, but a tailwind today can easily be a headwind tomorrow, and we must be ready for that. Offshore wind has incredible potential, and I believe our nation is seeing that more and more every day. But it is going to take each and every one of us gathered here today to ensure that this emerging industry potential can become reality. It's going to take fully harnessing the historic climate action that my colleagues and I in Congress took last session, passing both the Inflation Reduction Act and the bipartisan infrastructure law. It's going to require us developing strong and resilient supply chains needed to get these platforms online. Ports and harbors will be needed to build and transport the wind turbines and floating platforms. A supply chain of products, materials will be needed to feed into the manufacturing of the components like electric cables, transformers, and support stands for blades. And we will need to build ships, specialized ships, to install and maintain the wind turbines. We will also need a workforce pipeline, recruiting and training the best and the brightest available to turn this potential into power. I can tell you, speaking for communities like mine, we are excited. We see this clean energy transformation as an opportunity to be at the cutting edge of an energy revolution, unlike that we've seen since the first electrification of America. And as my region has weathered everything from historic drought to devastating storms in recent years, thanks to the undeniable worsening of the climate crisis, we know too well the urgency that we face. Now that California's first leases have been sold, we await the site assessments that will allow construction and environmental reviews to begin. But we know that these conversations about the future powerhouse are not just simply on hold until that happens. We have in me, I want you to know, and in California's Central Coast, cheerleaders for this budding industry here in the United States. And we are proud to be poised to be one of the poster communities for incredible benefits that the offshore wind economy can bring to our shores. I want to thank you for including me in your program today and for this very, very constructive symposium that you guys have organized. Thank you so much.